is something that I've had on my shelf for a little while. I originally had grander plans for it because I thought, no one's gonna give a fuck about this whiskey. I'm gonna have to like invent some bullshit to go around it, to like blanket it in, to make it clickable. And then I never got round to it, and I just decided, you know what, I want to try it, and I've had a rough week, so fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I was originally gonna call this video, Why Does Edinburgh Smell Like Cat Food? And it's because the distillery that this is made at, North British, sort of down the road from me, weirdly. I thought it was like in England somewhere, like in northern England, because North British, it kind of sounds, you know, like it should be in the Midlands or something, but no, it's literally up the fucking road, which was the weirdest thing ever, because I was like, I want to know where that is so I can visit it, and then it turns out it's literally a 10-minute walk away, and I'm like, the what? So that was weird. But yeah, I was going to call it Why Does Edinburgh Smell Like Cat Food, because that's got quite good Google metrics, because that's the world we live in now, and I was going to do like a voiceover which talked about the history of North British and Caledonian Brewery, and why when they make beer and whiskey, Edinburgh smells kind of weird, because it kind of does, but then I decided not to. So the short answer is, there's a brewery, a distillery, and when they're in production, it makes the place smell kind of weird. The end. So this is a 27-year-old whiskey, which is exciting. This is a grain whiskey, a single grain whiskey. How to think of single grain whiskey is, kind of think of it like Scottish bourbon. Yeah, all you bourbon drinkers out there, kind of like, that's not a thing. And it's not quite, but basically it's Scottish whiskey made with something other than malted barley. Malted barley, single malt whiskey. Grain whiskey can be made from other cereal components, so you can make it from corn, rye. We've actually done a grain whiskey before on the channel, the Kninvi KSV002. That's a catchy name, isn't it? Links in the corner, whichever fucking... That one? Is it down here now? I don't fucking know. It's here somewhere. And you can watch that. Long story short, it's quite nice. That was in my sort of artsy phase, where I was like, I can make these videos look good and put a load of effort in it. And then it turns out if I just sit in front of the camera and say queef a couple of times, people watch that more. So the more you know. I'm really bad at karaoke. So yeah, why is it so old? Rude. But also, nobody gives a fuck about grain whiskey. Bluntly honest answer. There's probably whiskey connoisseurs out there. It's like, oh no, grain whiskey, you know, it's got a charm, it's all, but like, you get what I mean, don't you? It's like, you know, everyone's really nostalgic about Woolworths now. It's like, oh, Woolworths was great. It's like, you should have fucking shopped there then, shouldn't you? So, oh no, have I broken the wax off of it? Bollocks to it, who gives a shit. So this is North British, 27-year-old, batch 3. Ugh. And you've probably noticed by now, my little spat with Master of Malt has come to an end. I actually bought this beforehand, but I've sort of gotten over that. If you're not quite sure what that was, long story short, there was a whiskey that I wanted to get my hands on and it sold out everywhere, and then Master of Malt was selling it after everyone else sold out, but they chucked £10 extra on it, and I didn't like that, because I was like, that's naughty. That's a dick move. Don't do that. But they've not done it since. And at the end of the day, one little shit on the internet being like, isn't going to make a blind bit of difference anyway. Oh, this is leaking like fuck. Shit. So, this is 56.3%, by the way. I'm not going to get into the production of grain whiskey because, frankly, it's boring. But the long and short of it is, it's a more industrially produced product. It's normally made for blended whiskey. And it's normally quite cheap to produce because they can produce arse-opening volumes of the stuff. You do see independent bottlings of the stuff every now and then. North British gets bottled a fair bit, despite being one of those ones where you don't hear about it that much in terms of like a casual consumer product. You don't hear about it, but if you're getting into your whiskies, you might be like, yeah, I've heard of that a couple of times, but who? So this this is that. There's no age statement. Actually, there is a fucking age. What am I on about? It's 27 years old. I've talked about that twice. Why did I just say there's no age statement? Am I alright? There is an age statement. It's nearly 30 years old. For context, the cheapest 25-year-old you can get your hands on, about 100 quid. It's Glenfarclas. Good whiskey. There's a sale on Glenfarclas 21 at the minute. I was tempted, but there's another whiskey I want to get my hands on instead. So I'm going to let it pass me by. I could probably buy both for 100 actually, but I won't. Anyway, that's a look into the future. But yeah, so grain whiskey. You can get some extremely old grain whiskey for a handful of change in some cases. And basically this is an opportunity for me to find out, is it any fucking good? Because I've not really tried any heavily aged grain whiskey. I've tried some grain whiskey before and I've been, do you know what, pleasantly surprised. People said that it's not massively complex. You know, you get some vanilla components but not a great deal else. But is it nice? That's what we give a shit about, isn't it? Is it nice? Does it have some interesting flavour compounds? Is it worth the money? All that fun stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. Letting out the 2020 poltergeist. There we go. Right. What's it smell like? Ooh. Ooh. Oh, that was unexpected. It's like strawberries and old library books. That's a weird combo. Oh yeah, it's like I'm eating fresh strawberries in a vintage bookshop. Oh, that's a lovely image. Oh, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, it's a little bit dusty and musty. It's like an old attic. And there's quite a fruity component to it. Like raspberries, blackberries, strawberries. A little bit of like shitty, cheap vanilla ice cream. Something of like toasted, like popcorn. There we go. I know there was something. Yeah, popcorn. Just plain popcorn that's not had anything else stuck on it yet. You get me. And a little bit of hairspray, just for good measure. VO5 or Pan 10. Silver Crim, yeah. Oh, what does this hair salon / vintage bookshop / greengrocers taste like? Holy shit, that's delightful. Orange chocolate, creme caramel, fresh whipping cream, ladles of vanilla. It's fantastic. There's a little bit of like a raspberry thing on the finish, but the fruity nose doesn't really translate to the flavour. It's a little more simple sweets and desserts. Actually, I take it back. There's a raspberry jam component in there. It's a very sweet fruit kind of a flavour. A little bit of like cornflakes in there as well. Honey, caramel, a little bit of orange. It's a tiny bit chocolatey as well. There is a burn. There's absolutely a burn, but I mean, you'd expect it at this strength. It's not really meant to be sipped at this strength. So we're going to chuck some water in it and see what happens. Again, as with the Arran, I'm going to go a bit generous. If you haven't watched the Arran, there'll be thing. I'm doing that thing again where I'm talking about them in sequence, so I have to release them in a particular order, aren't I? I'm quite bad at that. I could just pretend I'm like The Haunting of Hill House and just do things out of sequence and pretend it's in the name of art. The Haunting of Hill House is significantly better put together than anything I could ever put through, but maybe I'll just like hide a ghost in the window or something. That'd be fun. If I edit this afterwards and there's like a face in the window. That's worrying because I haven't hired any stooges yet. That's the absolute last thing I was expecting. There's something super salty and savoury on the nose. It's got like a bready component to it as well. You know that smell when like when you're cooking something with cheese in a pan and it like catches on the pan and it starts to like crisp up and caramelize, and that smell of it, it's a great smell, isn't it? Sorry any vegans that are watching this, I'm tempting you back to the dark side. Come back, we have cheesecake, it's great. Oh, the water's smoothed it out, but flavour and the texture of the whiskey have suffered quite dramatically. I might have overdone it a little bit. It's hard to tell. But what is there is more sort of like melted vanilla ice cream. It's quite a full fat milk element to it. Brioche. If you took all of the gas out of vanilla Coke and were just left with the flavour of it. It's got like that cola nut element, bit of vanilla, but there's something a little bit muted about it. Something missing. I'm not sure what the water helped. I think I should have gone a bit easier. I think if you're going to have this one, be aware that it's delicate. It's my own fault, to be fair, because it does say that it is old. The older a whiskey is, generally the less welcoming it is to having water suddenly chucked on top of it, which is why you tend to leave them alone. A few distilleries don't, but hey ho, money at the end of the day, isn't it? Some cereal notes. I'm going to nail my colours to a mast and say Cheerios. Just plain Cheerios. That kind of like blend of grains that you get from it. Oh, I quite fancy a bowl of Cheerios now, actually. I'm digging that. I'd say it's better without water, but you make your own mind up. I would say if you're going to add water, go easy. I fucked this up a little bit, so go easy. Other whiskey YouTubers might be like, oh, I can't let that go out, I better do it again. Learn from my mistakes. This is probably lovely with just like a drop of water in it. I put a full fucking teaspoon in and I think I've drowned it. It happens sometimes. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do it yourself. There you go. You're welcome. Mistakes are part of the spice of life. Let me know down below, have you tried any grain whiskies? What do you think of them? Do you think they deserve the bad rap? Do you think they are an absolute bargain and a steal? Do you want people to not know about them so that you can carry on drinking them yourself? Let me know down below. Thumb this video if you enjoyed it, and if you are liking the content and you're thinking, gee, I'd like to send him on holiday when we're all able again, there's links down below to my Patreon. I'm not going to spend it on plane tickets. Or am I?